So we've gotten a lot of questions on our YouTube shorts, and we've compiled a list of them, and we're going to answer some of those for you today. There's 3 of them. One is what can a customer expect from an estimate? 2, what do you do when someone doesn't pay? And 3, how do you build out a pricing sheet for your sales team? Yeah. So let's just jump straight into it, I guess. First question. What do customers expect from an estimate? Like, what does it look like for us to give an estimate to a customer?
Well, I think it's evolved over time. I think it's in the expectation in the beginning was like, hey, just let's tell them what the heck this is going to cost. You know, it's evolved a lot. We're at, this year probably going to do between 1.6 to 1.8 million in sales. So it's evolved quite a bit over time from when we were doing 600, 700,000 and for sure lower than that. Right now, the expectation for our clients are we're going to meet on site. We do on-site estimates. So people who tell you that, hey, going on site is stupid, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time. Our business has thrived because of on-site estimates. I don't do over the phone. Not totally. I will do it in a very unique situation. I will.
If it's urgent.
If it's like an emergency or something and it's stuff we see all the time, like we do a lot of grease cleanups, a lot of oil spills, stuff like that. Usually those are so time sensitive, they can't wait 5 days, if we're booked out 5 days. And that's a whole nother part. Like people wanting to do things over the phone, they're like, I'm afraid they won't wait. And if your reputation supersedes you, they will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing that you'll hear us say a lot is that relationships are the currency of life.
Yeah.
We really believe that. I didn't come up with that. Mattress Max, I think, is the one, or Mattress Mac or Mattress Max, whomever from Houston, Texas, sold so much furniture that it's ridiculous. But I heard him say that in a video, and I was like, dang, that's super juicy.
Yeah.
That relationships are the currency of life. And I'm not saying you can't build a relationship over the phone, but I think we'd all be stupid to say that you can build one better over the phone than if you're just in person.
And one of the best ways to ruin a relationship is to not pay someone. So that leads perfectly into the next question is, when someone doesn't pay, which we've had a lot of people try not to pay because we are so gracious and so forgiving as a company. People take advantage of that frequently. Not anymore, though. What do you do when someone doesn't pay? What have we done in the past, I guess? And then we'll share maybe what we're doing kind of today as well.
Yeah. So, in the past, it was like, do what you can to get the money from them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that there's people, when they ask that question, like all these comments we've gotten, like in the shorts or in some of the longer videos or in our Mastermind Monday groups, that you guys definitely want to be a part of. We go into even more detail than this, but I think that it's like almost wishful thinking. That question is like that someone's going to have an answer for you that you haven't already thought of, haven't heard, or didn't know about. And the answer is just go get the freaking money. Just figure out how to get it. You got to get scrappy. Someone's basically, the way that I look at it, when they steal from us, is like they stole from us. Yeah. We provided a service and they're holding my money. And I want the money. So I would say, like, back in the day, it would be very simple of like just calling and saying like, hey, leaving voicemails, sending texts, sending emails. That's grown since then. And then ultimately going to the house and just doing what you can.
Sure.
Sometimes, man, you just don't get it. And you got to mark it off as a loss. And like, that's just a part of business. Now, what we do is a system that I do think, even if you're a one-man show, like you've got 1 truck, 2 trucks, whatever. You don't have to get up to 8 or 9 trucks to be able to do something like this, but set a system. That's another word that I think you'll hear us say a lot, a system.
Right.
For following up with those people on those invoices. Now we've got our office admin that they've got a structured system. And some friends of ours up in Seattle actually helped us develop this. They're another great pressure washing company called Johnny Tsunami. Shout out to them. But a system for following up to keeping those outstanding invoices down. And our CRM that we utilize is House Call Pro. And it is enabled us to save cards on file. That is a game changer.
Yeah.
So we've, for the longest time, have hesitated on taking deposits. That would be something you could. Now, I know this is answering the question of like, how do you get the money when they're not paying? Just got to figure it out. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't have a good answer for it.
I think
Go to their house.
I know a lot of people, we either send them to collections, or if you can almost put a lien on their home if they're not paying.
Depending upon, I don't know if that's like a federal or a state to state thing, but we can absolutely put a small claims court like lien on their home.
And just mentioning that, like briefly, not threatening them with it. I guess you are in some ways, but like,
it is. It's intended.
Hey, we
to
don't
be,
want to do this. We just want to get paid.
It's intended to be a nice threat or a hard reminder, whichever way you want to look at it. It's either a nice threat or a hard reminder. Hey, you owe us money. And the thing is, these people know they owe you money.
Yeah.
You did the work at their house. It's not dead on them. They know. So yeah, ultimately there's a system of like scheduled check-ins. So like I'm saying, if I'm a one-man truck, what I'm doing is from 8 to 9 a.m. or whatever time you decide, I'm checking in with all the people who haven't paid me yet every day. Yeah. Every single day. Call, voicemail, text, email. Call, voicemail, text, email. I'm doing that every single day. And then eventually it gets to a place where I'm just going to their house. If that ends up not panning out, then yeah, you can file a lien and send them to collections. And usually when you tell people, like if you left a voicemail that said, hey, Mrs. Jones, it's been 28 days. I've left you 27 messages. I've tried to be extremely kind. And by giving that gap and keeping a record, you're also able to prove to them how gracious it is that you've been.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't want to go this route, but I am going to have to turn this into collections. Thanks so much. I hope you understand. Don't say, I'm going to turn it into collections if you don't. Just say, at this point, I'm going to have to turn it into collections. I hope you understand. And hang up the phone. We haven't had someone yet that hasn't paid us after that message.
Yeah. Yeah. Squeaky wheel gets the oil, so just keep on squeaking that wheel so you get the oil.
Squeaky reel.
Next question is, how do you build out a pricing template? I know when you're starting out, what do? You call other companies and you try to figure out what their prices are so maybe you can get somewhere in between. And so what are your thoughts on that? How do you build out a pricing guide?
Yeah, so the question that you're asking is like, if you're looking at a roof and a house and a driveway, like how are you pricing them?
Right.
Okay, yeah. So if I'm a one-man truck or, whatever, we don't have 8 or 9 trucks or whatever, I'm probably going, what is my time worth? So for you to get out of bed, go do work, how much is your time worth? Not like what is the cleaning worth? Of course, you're going to figure out your chemical costs. You know that. And if you don't know that, then you need to do that. But what is your time worth? How much do you want your company or you yourself to be generating per hour? Once you land there, the number one thing you can do is set a minimum charge. So if a job's going to take you 10 minutes, it still is a minimum charge. And minimum charge is based off of 1 hour of work. So let's say Mrs. Jones calls and she wants a frat boy. Well, Mrs. Jones, I got news for you. So let's say, hold on, my wife is calling. So let's say Mrs. Jones calls and she wants a front patio cleaned for, it's 40 square feet. For us, the reality of a minimum charge is if that truck is there cleaning Mrs. Jones' patio, it's not at Mr. Rogers' house doing a 1,500 square foot patio.
Right.
The minimum charge is not how do I make as much money from someone as possible. And ultimately what we end up doing, if you feel bad about that, because that's a hard realization, I think, to come to, but you're placing value on yourself.
Right.
When you set a minimum charge. But 2, they also have you for an hour. And I know a lot of businesses would say, no, that Mrs. Jones is the perfect job. You're in and out in 10 minutes. Let's leave. I'm like, hey, what else can we do for Mrs. Jones inside of that hour? Because you've bought an hour's worth of our time. If there's nothing you can do, then there's nothing you can do. And maybe that job is better served for a college kid down the road that does and is okay with doing something like that. But for a business, if you're looking to grow and scale, number 1, decide what your time is worth, set a minimum. And then based off that minimum, you'll know what you want to make per hour, okay? It doesn't really matter what service you're providing all day, like let's say you do an 8-hour roof wash, as long as you're hitting what you want your hourly wage to be, then you're fine. It doesn't really matter. So that's a simple way to say it, is make sure that whatever kind of quantity of soap that you're using and your time value is built into that hourly rate. But if you're wanting a separate pricing sheet, which you will eventually want as things continue to grow and scale, for us, I have square footage prices that are the same for some things and different for others. So roofs are, we use a lot more soap, and there's a risk factor there. So we charge more for that. There's a perceived value of getting on a roof that the homeowner doesn't want to do it. So yeah, it may be less time and less surface area than a house wash, but it's quite a bit more expensive because of perceived value. So anyways, to say in short, square footage charges for each one of your things based off of chemical cost, time, is how you'll get that square footage price. And when you get to an estimate, how I price things is I pull up and I look at this and I go, okay, this is just fairly dirty, so the square footage price will work. Or it's really dirty, so the square footage price plus some. Or, dang, this house is clean. For one, I'm also going to tell them, hey, I think you can wait a season and save the money, because that is going to create a customer for life. They will call us back, and they do all the time. That market research is true. Be honest with people when you're selling. Or if they're just wanting to maintain them, like, look, I know it's clean, but I just can't we have people like that.
Yeah.
It's so clean, they just can't stand it at all. They want to maintain its cleanliness.
Right.
Then you obviously don't have to charge that square footage price. You know that you're not going to use as much soap or time being there on site. So when you do get a square footage price, when you get there, how I view all of these is I go up and down based off of dirtiness, complexity, and time. So the square footage price is a skeleton of a house wash. For example, a 2,000 square foot vinyl home and a 2,000 square foot brick home, as long as the brick is not needing like a mold cleaning or anything like that, is likely going to be two different prices, but they're the same square footage.
Right. And I think also you can adjust that based off of the stage that your business is in too. And then with time, you'll understand, okay, maybe in my market, if I'm winning all of my estimates, that either means I'm a really good salesman or I'm a little low. Yeah,
so we float around 70%, which in the industry I think is on the higher side of closing. And yes, if you're winning 90 to 95% of your estimates, your price is way too low. And if you're winning 20 to 30%, it's way too high. Now, that also depends on the business model that you're going for, because if you're really just in it for like the highest profitability, that's its own thing. Like, we don't do that because we want the bigger cookie, but that's its own thing.
Right.
If you want that, that's fine. But for us, we want to price a fair, competitive price and win customers for life, and that falls right in the middle. So we win around 70%. If you get much higher than that, you are likely a little too low, and I'm sure people would say we're probably a little too low. We may be.
Sure.
I think we fall in the middle. And if you're dipping down below 50%, my perspective is your price is probably too high.
Mm-hmm. And if you guys have any other questions on the type of stuff that we're talking about right now, you can actually comment down below, ask the question, and we'll put you at the center and help solve that problem for you.
Thank you guys so much for all the love you've been showing us recently. It's very inspiring. We've enjoyed it greatly. If you enjoyed that video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell notification so that you can be notified of when we upload a video or go live, which we do every Monday morning at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time for our Mastermind Mondays. Thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you guys.